Ever wake up with your mind just buzzing? You know, maybe from yesterday's stress or even like those leftover creative sparks from a dream. Well, today we're diving deep into a question that really impacts how those mornings can unfold. Should you meditate before journaling or should we kind of flip the script on that?
It's such a fascinating question because both of these practices, they have serious benefits on their own, but when you put them together, it's like they become this mindfulness power couple, right? So
Yeah.
it's all about unlocking the best sequence for you specifically.
Exactly. And we've got articles and research here to unpack, not just like opinions. So before we even get into the whole order of operations, right? Let's break down why these practices are such a big deal individually. I mean, meditation's got to be more than just chilling out, right?
Oh, way more. There's this really interesting study from the Journal of Cognitive Enhancement, and what they found was that even just 10 minutes of daily meditation can actually really sharpen your attention and your emotional regulation. It's almost like you're doing reps at the mental gym, but for your focus.
Oh, kind of like that mental temp. So if meditation is for focus, then journaling is where we kind of work out our feelings, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like that feeling of venting to a trusted friend, but with a pen and paper. And what's wild is that research from the British Journal of Health Psychology actually found that it can even help you sleep better.
Which makes total sense. It's like you're taking all those worries from your mind and you're putting them down on the page, which just frees up space for you to rest. And the interesting thing is that both of these practices, they actually boost self-awareness. They're not just stress relievers, they're actually tools to help you understand yourself better.
Totally. So let's get into some scenarios here.
Yeah.
Imagine you wake up and your mind is racing, right?
Okay.
Work deadlines, that awkward thing you said yesterday, it's all just swirling around. Is is meditation the right move here? Like to calm the storm before you even start journaling?
That's the main argument for meditating first. It's kind of like when you tidy your desk before you start a project. You're creating that mental space so that journaling becomes insightful and not just a laundry list of complaints.
I actually used to be a total complaint journaler until I actually tried this sequence.
Mhm.
And it really shifted things for me. Instead of just venting, I actually started to see potential solutions. It was subtle, but it was huge change.
Yeah, and that's the power of what Dr. Dan Siegel calls prepping the mind for presence. You see, meditation, it isn't about emptying your mind. It's more about getting it ready to work with you.
Okay, so that makes sense. But here's the flip side, right? What if your mind isn't just racing, it's like full-on chaotic mess? Like you can't even focus on your breath because there's so much going on. Is that when journaling first might actually be a better approach?
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about all of this. There's not just one right answer. In that kind of scenario, journaling first, it's like hitting the delete button on all that mental spam that's like clogging up your inbox.
So you're not like forcing yourself to meditate when your brain's not ready. You're basically giving yourself permission to unload all of that first. And then when you do meditate, it's from a calmer, more peaceful place.
And you know what? There's even research that supports this idea. Psychotherapy research actually found that expressive writing before mindfulness, it actually boosts relaxation even more than just mindfulness alone. It's kind of like pre-gaming for chill out time.
I love that. One article even suggested keeping what they called a dump page for those like
Hmm.
extra chaotic days. And the rule is no censoring. You just let it all out.
I love that. Your own designated mental trash can.
Right.
And once that's done, you can move into your meditation with way more peace of mind.
So we've got two really solid approaches here. How do we help you, the listener, figure out which one is the best fit for your needs? Because, I mean, there's got to be more to it than just, whatever feels right.
Absolutely. And one huge factor is time of day. Are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Or or maybe somewhere in between because morning routines might really benefit from that meditation kickstart to get that focus going,
Yeah.
but then at night journaling might be the better way to process the day before you start winding down.
It's like having two different tools for two totally different mental states, right?
Mhm.
So then how do like personal goals factor into all of this? Like if I'm mainly looking for stress relief, is that more of a journaling first situation?
It very well could be. The idea is you journal to unload all those worries first, and then you meditate to help soothe your nervous system. It's like a 1-2 punch against stress.
Ah, okay. But then if I'm looking for a creativity boost, maybe I meditate first to get those sparks flying.
Yeah.
And then journal to capture them before they disappear.
You got it. And don't forget about your natural energy levels too. Are
Uh,
you are you someone who's super structured? Or are you more go with the flow? Because that's going to impact which practice feels easier at different times. You know what I mean?
Okay, so there's a lot of nuances here. Thankfully, one of the articles we've been looking at actually has a decision-making framework to walk through all of this. We're going to get to that in a bit. But first,
Let's give some concrete examples, right? The articles actually had a few sample routines for different goals, like a morning clarity one or an evening wind down sequence. Those might spark some ideas for you to try out yourself. Okay, so let's get practical here. Instead of just talking about these routines, let's actually walk through a few examples. One article had this awesome morning clarity routine, and it starts with just a quick, like, 5-minute meditation where you just focus on your breath.
okay, so we're talking no fancy visualizations or mantras, just getting that breath awareness going first thing in the morning.
Exactly, exactly. It's almost like gently waking up your mind before you start bombarding it with, to-do lists and emails and all that stuff. And then you transition into about 10 minutes of journaling.
And what kind of journaling are we talking here? Are they just free writing or did they have a specific structure they suggested?
They had a couple of prompts you could use. Things like listing 3 things you're grateful for, or maybe setting one clear intention for your day. It's really about getting yourself grounded and focused before the day kind of takes over.
Yeah, I can totally see how that would set a completely different tone than just scrolling through social media first thing when you wake up.
Yeah.
So what about the opposite end of the day? What about those routines for winding down at night?
Right. Well, for that they had this evening wind down sequence. And this one actually flips it. So you start with 10 minutes of journaling to reflect on your day, what went well, what challenges came up, any lingering feelings you want to process, that sort of thing.
It's like you're debriefing your brain before you try to shut it off for the night. Way better than taking all that mental clutter into your dreams.
Oh, absolutely. And then you transition into like a 5-minute guided relaxation meditation to help ease you into sleep.
Yep.
You could use the Calm app or YouTube or whatever works for you.
Guided relaxations are totally my thing. So soothing. Now, I know a lot of people out there, they really like to use mindfulness for problem solving, not just stress management. Are there any routines geared towards that?
This is where journaling's power to help you define a problem really shines. One article had this breakthrough routine, and it starts with 10 minutes of journaling just solely focused on the problem you're facing.
So not trying to solve it yet at this point, but just getting clear on what's actually stuck.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what feels off here? What's the core issue I'm dealing with? And once you have that down on paper, you move into 10 minutes of silent meditation.
Interesting. So not a guided one this time, but just giving your mind space to work on the problem, but subconsciously. Kind of like how we sometimes get those aha moments in the shower.
Yeah, that's the idea. You've laid out the problem clearly, and now you're basically letting your deeper mind have a go at it. And last but not least, for all the creative folks out there.
Ooh, yes. Tell me there's a routine for unlocking those artistic juices.
There is. And this one was called the creative inspiration practice, and it really prioritizes visualization. So 15 minutes of meditation where you're picturing a blank canvas and just letting ideas flow in, without judgment or anything.
No pressure, just pure creative energy.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then you move into 10 minutes of journaling. But the key here is you're capturing every single thought that came up, no matter how weird or random it might seem. It's all about catching those sparks before your inner critic can shut them down.
It's like a brainstorming session on hyperdrive. I love how specific these routines are.
Right.
But realistically, not everyone has a ton of time for 20 minutes of this and then 10 minutes of that. Any advice for those of us who are a little time crunched?
Yeah, one of the articles addressed this directly, and their advice was start small. Even 5 to 10 minutes per practice can have a really big impact. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Yeah, I am all about that philosophy. And what about those times when you struggle to focus during meditation because, it happens to the best of us?
They had a really great tip for that. So if a thought pops up, just jot it down quickly in your journal and then gently return to your breath. No need to fight the thought. Just acknowledge it and move on.
It's like saying, okay, brain, I hear you. Now back to chill out mode.
Yeah.
What about those folks who want to double up, like do both journaling and meditation in the morning and at night?
The article actually encouraged that. Imagine starting your day with with a focus meditation and then ending it with some processing journaling. It's like having these mindfulness bookends to your day.
Okay, so now let's get real about some of the obstacles people might face. What about like dealing with that pesky wandering mind during meditation or just straight up not having the time to do all of this?
They had some really good advice for those situations too. For the time crunch, their suggestion was to integrate your practices with existing habits. So maybe you journal while your coffee's brewing or you meditate while you're waiting for dinner to heat up.
Ooh, sneaky mindfulness. I like that. And what about those of us who struggle with consistency? Because we've all been there.
Well, mindfulness coach Tara Brock had this amazing tip. She said to link your new practice to an existing habit. So if you always brush your teeth before bed, tack on 5 minutes of meditation right after.
It's like habit stacking. I need to
Yeah.
try that. So we've covered routines, time savers, troubleshooting. What are the big key takeaways from all of this before we dive into that decision-making framework?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there's no one right way to do this. There's no single perfect sequence. It's really about tuning into your needs, your goals, and what feels good in your life.
Okay, so we've thrown a lot of info at you, routines, research, even those sneaky time-saving hacks. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, let's get back to that decision-making framework we mentioned earlier. It's kind of like a cheat sheet to help you figure out if you're more of a meditate first person or a journal first person.
I really like this framework because it breaks down the decision into basically just three key questions. So first up, what time of day is it? Are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Or are you somewhere in between,
Right, because like we've been talking about, if you're that super organized morning person, meditation might be the best way to kind of kickstart that focus. But
Yeah.
but for us night owls out there, journaling might be a gentler way to kind of ease into things after a long day.
Exactly.
If-
Exactly. And then the second question is, how are your energy levels? Are you feeling pumped and ready to go? Or do you feel like you need to process some things before you can even think straight?
That makes sense. If my energy is super high, meditation might be a good way to kind of harness that energy productively.
Mhm.
But if it's more of a low energy kind of day,
Mm.
maybe journaling's the way to clear the mental decks before I can even think about meditating.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. And then finally, the most important question, what are your goals for your mindfulness practice? Are you trying to relieve stress,
Yeah.
boost your creativity, or just feel more grounded overall?
Because like we talked about, if I'm really looking for some serious stress reduction,
Mhm.
that journal then meditate combo,
Mhm.
that might be my winner. Unload all the worries and then soothe the nervous system.
Right. But then if you need a creative spark, maybe you meditate first to get the ideas flowing and then journal to catch all of those ideas. It's like you're tailoring your practice to what you actually want to achieve.
I am loving how personalized this is becoming. It's not just about the practices themselves, it's about understanding how they work with you as an individual, not just for you in general.
Exactly. And remember this framework, it's not like a rigid set of rules, right? It's more about experimentation and finding what feels best for you and your life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought that kind of came up while we were prepping for all of this. If you could add one more element to your mindfulness routine, beyond meditation and journaling, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good one. It really gets you thinking outside that traditional mindfulness box. Maybe adding some movement like yoga or even just a walk in nature or maybe something creative like drawing or playing music.
I love that.
Yeah.
It reminds us that mindfulness isn't just about sitting still and being quiet. It's really about finding those practices that help you feel more present, more connected, and more alive. So what will you add to your mindfulness journey?